Side Hustle Saturday community. It's your girl, Lisa. And for today's interview, it's going to be a little bit different. What we're going to talk about today is about insuring your hustle. What does that mean? It means we're going to talk about benefits for the entrepreneur. And that is so very, very important because a lot of people that work 9 to 5, you get benefits, you get voluntary benefits. But when it comes to being an entrepreneur, you still get benefits, but we don't think about it in that way. So, my guest today is Babiya Polk, and she is the founder and CEO of 1 Degree Benefits. And she's here to spill the tea, drop the gems, and all those things about what it's about to have benefits when you're an entrepreneur. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate being on your show, Lisa.
So, first of all, let's give some context, right? Before we dive into about, oh, I need to get benefits as an entrepreneur. That's me.
Mhm.
Talk about what you do, your business, and how you got started.
Okay, definitely. I'm going to rewind a little bit. I've been in the industry for 13 years,
Mhm.
but I was wearing the other shoe, so to speak, when I was a W-2 employee at one of the major hospitals. I worked in the HR field, and I was the first person you would see to apply for a job. And then I was the last person you see if you got hired and did your onboarding. And that was talking about benefits and payroll and so on in that matter. Fast forward, I left that side and I had an opportunity of one of the carriers reaching out to me. And I really was just going for the interview, to be honest. I wasn't even really looking for a job. But it kind of intrigued me for a different reason. It was intriguing me like, I'm my own boss. I like that. I don't have to ask for a day off. And at that time, being a single mom, this was very important to me that I can work when I need to work or want to work when I need to be a mom and be present as a mom. So I took the big shift and decided to work with one of the carriers. And at that time, I was not 1 Degree Benefits. I was a 1099 contracted insurance agent at the time, is what it was called. And what I noticed was a lot of the smaller business were asking me, do you offer this? Do you offer that? And I was like, "Ah, I don't offer that. I need to get some more products underneath me so that I'm able to offer a full suite of benefits." So I started to grow my product line as my business was growing too at the time. And what had me shift from being just an independent contracted insurance agent or broker, as most people may be familiar with, is I decided I need to now, after being in uh, the business, structure my business as an LLC, which became the birth of 1 Degree Benefits
Mhm.
from there. And I was shifting from being a transactional insurance agent to a consultative insurance broker.
Right,
And
right.
I was teaching and educating and being able to provide nuggets to businesses of how to strategize your business with benefits, because that is a a a means of scaling. And a lot of people look at scaling as success of what's in my bank account.
Right.
And
And that's
that is not how you need to think of
right.
success, and scaling is what's in my bank account. You need to look at what is making that money be in your bank account.
Mhm.
How do you continue to grow that bank account? And there are strategies in place. And one of those things that get overlooked is benefits. It's insuring yourself, insuring your business.
Yeah, I when I left my 9 to 5, and before I left my 9 to 5, that was the biggest hurdle for me. Were benefits. I knew what I was getting with my employer. I
Yes.
knew my benefits, how much I had to pay, and where, if I needed to get my teeth done or go to the doctor. It was just cut and dry.
Mhm.
But as an entrepreneur, I was like stagnant because I didn't want to leave my 9 to 5 corporate job,
Oh, yeah.
good benefits, and become an entrepreneur because I didn't think I was going to have any benefits. I was going to be out here like just hanging out in the cold. And so what I learned was after doing some research and talking to a few brokers that
Mhm.
the benefits that I have now are just as good as the corporate benefits I was getting at my corporate job, and they're cheaper. So can you talk to some of the entrepreneurs that were in my boat that are kind of like on the fence? They're ready to take off.
Yep.
The 9 to 5. Hey, how important that is, and how they can still set themselves up for success and still have benefits for themselves. And if they have employees, they can still do that as well.
Absolutely. So I think the biggest number one reason, especially when you're a solo entrepreneur, um, you're thinking about survival right now, keeping the lights on. You
Mhm.
know, that's what you're in survival mode. You're wanting to keeping the lights on. And if you have that one or two employees, making sure you can keep payroll. You're in that survival mode.
Yes.
And what I'm trying to help my clients is we need to put some structure in that. You need to have some form of structure and have knowledge. And this is where I can come in and
Mhm.
help you with that component. And you're correct. You can have just those same benefits as where you were working at or those bigger companies. It's just now what we have to do is customize it to what are your needs that you're needing now, and then we can grow and scale it up from that. So one key factor that I've learned is voluntary benefits is a good fit for small businesses.
Mhm.
And what is defined as a small business? A small business will be it, how I define it is a business that has like 10 or less employees in
Mhm.
there. That is considered small. The most common thing to do is usually when you have that small of employees, sometimes you have a key employee that's your right hand person when
Yeah.
you're not there, and you can customize and have like put in life insurance for that key employee. You start something simple. I have clients that I put in a 10-year a term life in, and usually the lifespan of an employee in there could be about around that time
Uh-huh.
frame. So you put in a 10-year term life in there to start off with. You can start small. You don't have to put a lot of the medical and dental vision. And a lot of times when you're small and these employees that you're hiring, they probably already have medical somewhere else anyway, if
Yeah.
it's through a spouse or something. So start small with something simple of an attraction, because when it comes down to it, talent chooses companies that offer them benefits. If you want that talent, that's the bottom line, because one of the top three questions they're going to ask is, what do you have to offer for benefits?
Can you talk about the definition of what are voluntary benefits?
Yes. So traditionally, medical insurance is paying doctors and hospitals. Voluntary benefits um, are benefits that pay you cash when you're sick or injured or you seek some form of treatment. Those are voluntary benefits. That's the accident, the critical illness, the cancer plan, hospital plan, those things. But most people are knowing the accident and disability are the two common things. But they pay you cash benefits when you're sick or injured or you're seeking some form of treatment. Those are voluntary benefits. And there are a lot of companies that offer voluntary benefits, and which I could name 1,000 of them, but for this sake, we'll just keep it as that. But there's many of them that do. And these are benefits that the employer can offer at no cost coming out of their pocket. And in fact, it could be a business cost savings for them. And what I mean by that is all businesses may not be aware of this, but you pay FICA taxes. And FICA taxes are federally federal insurance contribution is act that was established by the government, and the employer and employee have to contribute to those FICA taxes, which
Right.
help pay Social Security, whatever. So when you offer voluntary benefits and you offer them as a pre-tax benefit, which means their deductions are taken out from the employee's paycheck pre-taxed, which means they're having more of their check um, given to them. And then for the business, it's showing more of income that the business is making and less that you're paying into the taxes. And
Oh,
we have a formula, if anyone is listening, if you really want to know, that I can show you those numbers of so you can see it, because sometimes you have to visually see it how it works. But it is saving the employee and employer money when you're offering voluntary benefits. And it's the shift of changing, this is an investment, not an expense.
so as an employer, so if I'm ready to take on someone as a not a contractor, but as a
Mhm.
permanent employee, and I can't really afford to pay benefits, but I want to give them something. Voluntary benefits is another way that I can use to attract talent,
Yes.
still give that talent insurance and
Oh,
be
yes. Yes, absolutely. And you said something else too that I want to add on. Even if you're hiring 1099 or contracted, you still can offer them voluntary benefits. It's just not going to be pre-taxed though, but you can offer it. You can offer it as well. And we have a lot of those clients, such as salons, as an example, where they're 1099s. They're working for themselves in a salon. So we do offer it as a contractual thing to 1099s can have voluntary benefits.
okay. What are some other things that solopreneurs or entrepreneurs could do besides voluntary benefits to attract that talent, but still have something to offer?
I do have some carriers that you can also offer dental and vision, and it takes a minimum of two employees, and
Mhm.
you have a group dental or a group vision with a minimum of two. So there are a few carriers that do offer that to us well. The most common and most recently, I'm currently speaking with a lady that has a cleaning business, and um, she hires, and she it's a season. She hires employees seasonal because she has a heavy season versus another heavy season.
Mhm.
So, and she told me, my concern I have is that I hate laying them off because I won't get them back.
Mm.
And I said, well, what do you have to attract to get them back? Nothing really. And I said, why don't you try putting voluntary benefits in? And she goes, but they only work seasonal. I said, well, there's a way with some of our products, if we can treat them like teachers. Like if they're not working in the summertime, we can make the deductions come out that they're still covering them during the summertime when they're not working. And this goes back to being that consultative broker
Right.
again,
'Cause you
with
don't know.
talking to your client
Yeah.
and customizing things and finding solutions that can help them. And she said, I never thought about that. I said, yeah, they're just going to pay more to make it throughout the year covered. So this is a way to track them back.
Mm.
So that worked well for her successfully. So again, dental and vision, life insurance is easy. That's a no-brainer.
Mhm.
Most people expect an employer to be offering life and disability. Those are the two things. Uh,
Mhm.
but and dental and vision is common too. Um, on the medical side, just to highlight, everyone's used to just the true medical, the Anthem, the Medical Mutual, what have you.
Yeah.
But there's other products out there that can help pay for doctor visits, not so much um, the robust health plan. It won't cover hospitalization, but doctor visits covering your annual checkup, vaccinations, the mammogram. We have carriers that offer that. That is less expensive for an employer to offer. And at times, you get the business owner can be rewarded. And what I mean by that is at the end of the year, if there's not been um, insurance carriers predict what your usage would be of the benefits
Hmm.
utilization, and if you did not go beyond that, they reward you and they reimburse some of that money back to the employer.
This segment of Hustle Talks is brought to you by Studio 951. Need a game changing marketing strategy? At Studio 951, we help businesses stand out with expert branding, social media management, content creation, web design, and video editing. From crafting eye catching visuals to driving engagement, we bring your brand to life online and beyond. Ready to grow? Let's build something amazing together. Visit studio-951.com today.
Yeah.
So there's some benefits out there, like I said, carriers that can offer those type of benefits that seem and feel like true medical benefits, but they're taking care of the most common things people want, that those doctor vets, be able to call and get a prescription. You know, they're out there. It goes back to just knowing that you have that type of broker that can have that type of capability of researching and partnering with those carriers to help you.
I think there's also a misconception that when you're an entrepreneur and you get benefits, all you're going to get is Obamacare or Medicaid. Is that, I mean, and I thought that, to be
Yeah.
honest. And then, people frown upon that in the industry, or I
Oh
can't
yeah.
get the same doctor that I've been going to because
Hmm.
I have to get this downgraded insurance
Hmm.
because I'm an entrepreneur. Is that the case, or can you bust
Um,
the bubble?
I'm the one that sometimes going to the market is, as you are indicating, could be a benefit for some individuals
Hmm.
because it can be. But when it comes to a, a, a solo entrepreneur such as yourself, there are group plans, true group plans that you can participate in that you can get as if you are an employee that has 10 employees in. But those are tied to being part of a chamber. And then you be put in a pool. They call them MIWAs or SOCAs. Those are common names. But you're put in a pool of all these other members in the chamber so that your premiums are not going to be so high. So that is an avenue that I have taken some of my clients in that way. But I like to give my clients options. Like, let me shop for you. Let me see if I can get 2 to 3 options. Discuss each one, the good and the bad, and then you should be able to make an educated decision which route you want to go with that. The last thing I want someone to do is just go with something because of cost, because sometimes cost is not meeting your needs still, health wise. And I've seen that happen with some of the employers when they say, I'm just going to go with this cheaper plan and offer it to my employees, but then your employees are not satisfied and they still leave.
We still.
Yes. So it's very important that you understand, again, it's going to cost you more to replace an employee than it does to offer these benefits.
Hmm.
And sometimes you have to see the numbers on paper to see that.
Yeah.
I've seen so many signs out there that say, hiring will give you a $3,000 bonus. And I'm like, you could use that money and get benefits in there. And most of those employers are not even offering benefits, but they're giving these sign-on bonuses.
Yeah. I think they don't want to deal with it. when I was straddling the fence,
Yes.
I talked to a broker
Mhm.
and he said, "You can't afford group benefits." And he was
Mhm.
right because I was
Yeah.
just starting out.
Mhm.
One of the things he did say is, "But what you could do is you could refer your clients to me and give them a
Mhm.
stipend
Mhm.
towards their paycheck, and they can use that stipend to get benefits," which is another creative way
Yes.
to look at getting benefits for contractors or employees as well.
And that's one that is being consultative to you, and I like that. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. That is a great idea. Another great idea I have done with, and this works well with more the home health care um, businesses. And as you know, home health cares are like the McDonald's. They're at every corner.
Yeah.
You can go across the street and work there and go come back on second shift and work on the other one. And the biggest, they have the highest turnover for employees. And most of them, when hired, are hired part-time. So it's unpredictable work hours.
Yeah.
So that's a struggle for an employer too. And to get people to work on the weekend, to get people to work on holidays is a struggle. And this particular client, that was her struggle when she got referred to me. So I said, okay, I need to hear your pain points first. What is your priority that you're trying to do? What is your affordability? Versus what you're doing. What are the other things you've done to try to keep and retain? So I said, why don't we do this? Let's stagger your benefits. You have office staff and then you have the field staff. Let's put two categories. You can offer um, different plans by classifications too, as well. And you're still being compliant, so to speak. So that's what we did. We did two different classifications of benefits because we noticed that the field staff, their needs are different from the office staff as well. And obviously the income is different. So we did two different classifications of benefits. And both classifications had an option A and option B. And it seemed to work better. But what we did was we staggered the contribution. And being that she was less than 50 employees, she was not compelled to honor the ACA requirements or federal mandates of offering and making it affordable, so to speak. So what we did was you want people to work weekends is what you're wanting and every other holiday. Okay. So what we did was if you were full-time working 30 hours or more, if you work 30 hours or more, work every other weekend and every other holiday, the employer was going to pay this much of contribution to your benefits.
Oh, okay. That
If
makes
you
sense.
staggered from that,
Yeah.
then she was only providing like $20 per pay of a contribution.
Yeah.
So that helped her keep her business growing because she always had to turn down clients because she couldn't get anyone to work weekends or anyone to work the holidays. That was important to her. So that was the way I was being creative for her.
Mhm.
And then again, it saved her money
Yeah.
and increased her business. And she was able to measure that. And that's what I want businesses to do. Measure what you're doing to see if it's working. And if it's not working, let's relook at it again. Don't offer something and don't look at it, you know, for years or whatever. You should at least annually look at your benefits of what you're offering, what's working, how is it being utilized. And that's data your broker can provide from the carriers.
Yeah, I think the point here is I think people just aren't educated and they didn't know. I mean, I didn't know you could offer benefits and have tiers or
Mhm.
hey, if you do this, I'll pay more of this. You just don't know. And I think
Oh, yeah.
there's that literacy, insurance literacy that people just don't know that entrepreneurs don't know. And I
Uh-huh.
think that's good. And I'm glad that, you know, we're having this conversation, because if somebody comes across this and they're like, I need insurance, now they know, like, oh, wow, I didn't know I could do that.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's creative, but the key is you got to make sure you're being fair and equitable offering it, because it can't look favoritism. And that's when you have to do classifications. You have
Mhm.
to do by job title, by income. If it's um, years of work there, it has to be something like that that's non-discriminative, basically, so that you don't have someone complaining or putting a lawsuit out there on you. So as long as you're doing those things, it works. But again, it has to be something that is a need and a want that is going to produce something of a benefit for the employer and employee.
Now, I know a lot of solopreneurs, when they leave a job, they get.
Mhm. Yes.
So, is that a good thing to do? Because Cobra is it's Cobra, so don't come at me, Cobra.
I had to do it too when I left corporate.
I mean, it's expensive.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's very expensive. And if, you know, what are some things that entrepreneurs can do and not take the Cobra road and still get insurance that's just as good?
So the key is you got to know when your Cobra is going to end, because it's very important.
Hmm.
Because in the marketplace, there's a window that you can go in and shop if you're going through the marketplace. Outside of going from the marketplace, you can still shop, but you have to have that qualifying event, and it has to be within the 30 days you've ended your benefits there. So that's very important that people know that if you're going to hold on to that Cobra until you figure out, am I going to get this job, or you're going to look in the market, you got to make sure you're doing it within 30 days of you discontinue or canceling your benefits, because then you're locked out.
Yeah.
Um, Cobra is expensive. So I've always gave the option to that individual that okay, let's look at the market just to see what it is. The problem is you have higher deductibles.
And the marketplace,
And
Obamacare, or that's the government insurance.
yes, yeah, when I'm saying the marketplace, yes,
Mhm.
that's correct.
But
Um, but there are some, um, I don't know if you heard the term gap insurance.
yeah.
Okay, you could get gap insurance, which is covering for that short-term period until you get a benefit plan, which costs less. It doesn't cover as much though. But some people do that because it's better than nothing and it's more affordable for me. Why I'm still trying to find insurance or a job, or get yourself together. So there is such thing as gap insurance.
Hmm.
And I do encourage people to look into that, because that is a segue to getting a plan in place, that is more affordable and more robust. There's ICRAs out there,
And
that
what?
ICRA um, it's almost like you go into the market, but it's customized to the individual. So some companies offer the ICRA, but it's based on your income, what you make of what you're paying of your premiums. Um, it's good, but it can be confusing. So you have to have a right broker to help explain how to use it, because it can be a little bit complicated, because a lot of medical sites um, may not understand what it is.
Hmm.
So that's important to know. But gap insurance is better.
Yeah. So, what about, okay, I left my job, but what I had was Blue Cross Blue Shield, or
Hmm.
nah, or another big carrier that we know about. And
Hmm.
I love them, but now I'm solo and I
Hmm.
still want to have that. Can I still do that and stick with the insurance carrier that I had when I was employed by somebody, but now I'm an entrepreneur? Are there
Yes,
like,
that's a common ask. That's probably the number two ask. Usually the number one ask is, I want to keep my doctors.
Yeah, that too.
So the number one ask is, I want to keep my doctors. The
Yeah.
number two ask is, I like Medical Mutual or Aetna or Anthem, whatever. So
Hmm.
in that situation, this is where that broker has to be real with them and say, when you're a solo entrepreneur, you're limited of the carriers, because there's probably one or two carriers that would take a one person that is which normally is the business owner
Hmm.
existing, that will accept you into the plan as an example. Then okay, there's two, they can just have separate plans, then there's more options
So I could
that
do
way.
it
So
myself or with contractors or with full time or
now contractors, no, they
no.
cannot be part of your true medical plan, a true medical plan. Now there are other plans similar that could work, but no. It has to be when we shop for benefits. Let me back up. When we shop for benefits, we have a platform that we use that employees that work, W-2 employees that are working 30 hours or more a week, or if they're part-time, and this is if you're a larger size employer. So if you have 50 employees altogether, then we take the part-time employees and we measure them. If they work 1,560 hours in a 12-month period, they're considered working part-time, full-time. Okay, those are the ones that will have to complete what we call a form fire, which is an online platform where you're answering health questions, like 10 health questions, basically. And that data is what we use to shop to the carriers. They get to see that data, and they're going to look at it and they're going to grade it. And they're grading you how healthy you are as a company.
Mm.
Okay. So the factors they're going to look at is age. Are you male or female? They're going to look at, are you taking any forms of medications? Have there been past surgeries, illnesses, chronic illnesses, you're asthmatic or whatever? They take those factors and they grade it. And then based on that grade will be based on how they factor what your premiums are going to be on there. So that's how they get quotes. But yes, there's certain carriers that we may choose over others, and it's going to be based on size. If you're a solo entrepreneur one, then we know, oh, we only can go to these two carriers to shop because they accept one person in a business on that end. So there are some things, but we try to meet the needs that you're asking for, of course. But sometimes we may have to say, you know what, Lisa, there's only two carriers, and this is how we're going to have to go.
Yeah.
you know.
And it's difficult, because
Mhm.
it's not only do you have to run your business, now I got to figure out how to get insurance too. And
Yeah.
I think there's some people out here that just don't even have insurance. They're just like,
Mhm.
well, if I get sick, it's whatever.
Yeah.
You
Oh yeah, that is so true. Uh, but if you get sick, your business is going to go this way, not the other way. It's not even going to stay steady.
Right, right. I agree. What do you think are some common mistakes that entrepreneurs or small businesses make when it comes
Now,
to
I wrote these
these
down.
benefits?
I'm going to tell you some of them because I wrote some just from my personal experience
Yeah.
of what people do. And I'm going to say the first common mistake they do is they wait too long to offer. And what I mean by that, I'm going to give you a good example because this happened. And this is back in my days when I was prospecting. And I seem to have a niche with home health cares. That seemed to be my niche,
Hmm.
and getting all the referrals from all these different home health. Like, you need to work with Bobby, you need to work with Bobby. She helped me out a lot. And so I walked into one and I did my research, and they were over 50 employees, but they weren't offering anything for benefits. And I was politely educating them, like, are you aware about the ACA mandate for if you have more than 50 employees that you should be offering at least a minimum benefit plan? And I said, you know that IRS can audit you
Mhm.
and you can get fined per person, and they can go back years since you've been, and that's a lot of money than you offering.
Mhm.
So he was like, "Oh, we're okay, we're okay, we're okay." So I left my card and everything, and it was a few weeks later, I got a call and said I got a letter. And they were asking me about, do I offer, and I need to show proof that I offer and what I offer.
Oh.
And this is where I came in and helped. And I said, well, I can't take away what happened, but at least we can stop the bleeding. And
Mm.
let's put a minimum plan in, which we call MEC plans, which is ACA compliant. We're offering the minimum. Let's start there, and then let's make a plan of how we're going to scale from that, just to stop the bleeding. But that's the biggest make. They wait too long. They wait till something happens, somebody leaves. I had another employer that called me up, and she had so many of her LPNs leave, and they were working somewhere down the street, and she looked on their website and she showed me their website. Look what they're offering. I want to offer what they offer. That's an example. So I said, well, let me see first if you can offer that, because they're a different demographic. We don't know what the revenue is there. Everything is different, but it goes back. They wait too late. That's the number one mistake.
Mhm.
Um, Two, they think it's too expensive. Yeah, there are expensive plans, but there are also expensive plans that can be affordable. It goes back to, do you have that right broker or consultative agent that can research and find those for you as well? Um, the other big mistake, the other two mistakes, even if they do offer, they're not communicating and educating their benefits. They're like leaving the middle person out, which would be me. The owner is going online, finding it, and then here we go, employees, I got something for us, but they have no idea what they're offering them. And you could be offering the wrong things, and you may be offering things that are not keeping you compliant
Mhm.
either. So it goes back to that. So those are some of the mistakes that I say that they do. And a lot of it, like I said, they're not reviewing their benefits annually with someone professionally. I think you need to, like you do your auto insurance or some other things that people look at and renew. You look at this stuff every year. You need to do that. And if you're not doing it, or your broker or whoever you're using for your insurance is not reaching out to you, it's like, hey, let's have an annual review and look over everything that you have. Things change in people's businesses and people's lives. Marriage, divorce, whatever, things change. You need to update this stuff. It's important. But those are the mistakes that I'm seeing. But the biggest one is they wait too long, or they think it's too expensive.
Yeah. So, and that was me. Hey, y'all. It was me. I think that too, because I'm like, how can I afford that? I have to have money in the books. I got to make payroll, and I got to
Hmm.
pay y'all insurance on top of that.
Hmm.
Can't do that. But I'm glad that you're able to kind of like shed some light on that, because again,
Hmm.
we are insurance illiterate, and we
Yes.
don't know, and you don't know what you don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So, but as a business, now, okay, now I know
Yes.
I want to offer insurance.
Hmm.
How can I protect myself as a business from any type of risk when I do offer insurance so nobody can come back on me? How can I do that?
So I use the phrase stay in your lane. You know what you're good at, right? I always say leave it to the professionals. You know what you're good at.
Right.
So get professional advice so you can make an educated decision. That's what you need. You need to get professional advice so you can make an educated decision, because you don't know what you don't know. Now, what I say to people too, I said, you don't have to use me, but I'm gonna prep you. I'm going to tell you the questions you need to ask. And I do that all the time with people that um, they call me for random things, or I already have a broker or whatever, but I'm just want to ask you because I want you to tell me, do I have the right plan? And I don't mind giving advice and letting people know that, but I said, you need to go back to that person and ask these questions. Is it portable? Is it going to increase when I get older or da da da? You need to ask these things because they're going to assume
Mm.
or you have that broker who just doesn't care, you know. But sometimes they think this stuff. And if you don't ask it, they're not, how are they going to help you? So it is very important that you ask questions. And if you don't know the questions to ask, get some advice from someone like, and trust. Talk to another colleague that has benefits already or something and say, who do you use? How do you feel about that person? I want to know some more information. What should I be asking? But I always tell people questions, ask questions, ask questions. It's such a key to anything to get started on benefits. Always compare and don't even be afraid to say, I like to, is there someone I can call, one of your clients, to ask them how they like it? And people have asked me that, and I don't mind giving referrals. I say, sure, I'll give you 3 names here that don't mind you calling. I'll just make sure they know that you're calling at least, that you can ask,
Mhm.
But I think it's important that because you're investing in yourself, your business, your employees, that you should make sure that you know what you have and understand it. That's a key.
Yeah.
That's the key. But there's so much out there, and you need someone who can kind of narrow it down for you and say, here you are. Here's the top 5 that you should look into. And you need to have them explain it, what makes sense, what's good, what's bad, and why.
That's good to know. Is there anything that, as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
that I shouldn't be doing?
That
You
you should not be doing
you
as an
shouldn't be.
entrepreneur.
Mhm.
Um, Let me think what you should not be doing with benefits. It is important if you are offering benefits, um, you need to have some form of employee handbook.
Wow.
And even if it's just you and one employee, make it simple as a document. And there are HR consultants out here that you could hire just for a project and say, this is what I'm offering, da da da. I need to have some form of a handbook. Like,
Mhm.
what is the waiting period to offer it?
Yeah.
And you need to decide the 30, 60, or 90-day waiting period. You need to have something in writing because it goes back to you don't want this to bite you at the end. And I've seen it happen where an employer was not offering everyone these benefits or wasn't offering it on in a timely manner. And that's important too. Like you waited 6 months later and offered me, and now I was hospitalized 3 months ago
Yeah.
because you could be liable to be paying that bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever you're offering of a benefit, of a perk, whatever that is, have some form of a benefit summary or something, but you should have an employee handbook of some form. And it doesn't have to be very extensive. It could be very simple,
Yeah.
and it could be one it could be one even if because I know some employers use an attorney for some reason, but that's a small business and they say, here, I need you to write up a document because I'm going to hire someone and I need to have some guidelines and of days off or if how do I handle any type of write-ups or stuff like that. You should have something in writing.
Yeah.
But benefits definitely need to have it in writing of who gets it, how is it offered,
Mhm.
what's the waiting period. So that's what I would give as advice that I don't see a lot of people do.
Well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for being on the show. You've educated me on some stuff.
Mhm.
And when we met, funny story, because we met at a networking event.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. We sure did.
I keep telling you, networking is key because you never know who you run into. And so
I'm
we
a
met
believer.
each other at a networking event. And
Uh-huh.
when we started to talk, I was like, that would be great to talk to just share with people on Side Hustle Saturday because we don't talk about benefits. We talk about getting the hustle, getting the bag, getting the money. But when it talks about I need some health insurance. Oh, that's taboo.
Right. Insurance. It is.
I need,
Yeah.
I need some glasses, but I ain't got no vision insurance. We don't talk about that. And that's important, especially like you said in the beginning, when you
Uh-huh.
want to scale and grow your business
Yep.
and you take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance is key, whether it's for yourself or you're bringing on an employee.
Yes.
You
I
gotta.
agree. You got to protect yourself, your business, because what ifs are going to happen. I'm a believer what ifs happen.
Mhm.
And all I'm trying to do for a business owner and those that have employees is just to put you in a better financial situation when it happens.
Yeah.
That's the key. That is the key. And that's one thing you can control as a business owner is prepare yourself financially for the what ifs of whatever that could be.
Well, Babiya, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show and educating us hustlers out there on get some insurance, y'all. Get some insurance. How can listeners get in contact with you and your business?
Well, my business name is One Degree Benefits. So it's actually going to be my email, which is Babiya, and that's B as in boy, A, B as in boy, I as in India, Y as in Yankee, A, at One Degree Benefits. Worst scenario, if you can't remember all of that, my phone number is 614-557-9844. I am on LinkedIn and on Facebook and on Instagram as well.
Mhm.
So there's many ways to reach me.
And reach out. She's licensed in a couple of different
Yeah,
states.
13 states, as far out as California to the other side of New York. So I have mostly all the border states as well too. But yeah, 13 states. I'm sure if you call me, I probably can do that state for you.
Well, again, we appreciate your knowledge. We appreciate you educating us. And Side Hustle Saturday community, check the description. You know what to do. Hit that red subscribe button. And for everything else, everything's in the description. Thank you so much for being on the show. And Side Hustle Saturday, you know what we're gonna do next. I'll talk to you soon. Bye
Thank
bye.
you, Lisa. Bye-bye.